Assalamu alaikum. We all live in a world today full of negative stereotypes about Muslims and Islam in general. Things have gotten so bad that they have derived a word for it, Islamophobia. My name is Ibrahim Bin Adnan and I am here to answer the burning question of the hour. Are all Muslims terrorists? I am a Muslim and I hafiz the Quran, but I am no terrorist. Both my parents, who are doctors, are also not terrorists. Neither are my two brothers, or my friends, and even my teachers. Almost everyone I've met since the day I was born are Muslim, and none of them are terrorists. So where does this idea come from? I'm only 11 years old, and I was born into this Islamophobic world. But I guess that things started way back. My father says that things were not always great. But then something called the 9/11 happened.
What?
What are those people going to do? All the elevators are blocked down.
A new type of war. That's what it is.
Not only the United States, but the whole world was devastated. My father says that the shocks of the collapsing buildings of the World Trade Center reached even him, being one of the few Muslim students in Europe. This is really where things turned from bad to worse. Then, of course, the media didn't help either.
Worst terror attack since 9/11.
I'm so sick of this elephant in the room. It's called Muslims. It's called Islam. It's called the Quran.
Well, here they are. These are the faces of evil.
What they want to see is the face of the woman who killed 14 of our fellow citizens.
There is no pressure on moderate Muslims to take action against this poison.
Trump called for surveillance on mosques, then the establishment of a national database for Muslims in the U.S.
But Donald Trump insists it's for the safety of our country and not because he's a bigot or a racist.
To close the borders.
We need less Muslim immigration and less legal immigration generally.
Sensitive situation in this country right now. They're trying to determine exactly the names. It's a Middle Eastern name, and the other one is also, quote, a weird name.
More and more likely this could be a possible terror attack. A devoutly religious Muslim, so that now raises once again the possibility that this was a terror attack.
With a huge problem in the Muslim world.
That they hate us, they want to kill us.
How do you fix that infection? I mean, because it seems to me that you'd have to fix it from within Islam. These are religious extremists motivated by a belief in their God to kill us and sometimes themselves.
What is the direct antidote to jihadi terrorism? An immediate and quick solution to it.
Countries that way, Islamic militancy or this terrorist Islam is gaining a space. It is a matter of great concern for us.
What's been happening?
Yes, I would. I would stop.
You would ban all Muslims?
I would temporarily halt Muslim immigration to this country until we get a grip. Our people, Islam is an idea.
Yeah.
Islam's an idea, a bad idea.
And
Islam is a
Muslims
faith.
follow
No, it's an idea.
that
It's a faith.
It's an idea.
Are you accepting that you're Islamophobic?
Because there are 100 verses in this.
Yes or no?
Okay.
Are you Islamophobic?
There's no such word as Islamophobia. Phobia is an irrational fear. It's not irrational to fear these things. Now, if I hold this book up and say there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book, is a violent and cursed book. That's
what's wrong. Right?
I should show some respect for a book that incites murder against me.
Put it down.
And calls me an animal. No, I won't put it down. Sir William Gladstone held this book above his head in Parliament and he said there will never be peace on this earth so long as we have this book. It's a violent and cursed.
Hollywood movies and TV shows did their part too.
Muslims are always terrorists.
Violent terrorists.
Terrorists. Bad people.
Shows like 24. True lies.
The last thing you will see will be your blood spraying across his face.
You constantly have this reinforcement of a very negative image of Muslims.
There was like these cardboard, angry, stock brown characters. Muslim women are always portrayed as like the oppressed woman, the terrorist, or the hyper-patriot.
And I was always told that Muslims hijack airplanes and blow them up. And I was always told that you came in on this little carpet right here.
Because of 9/11, suddenly all Arabs are looked at, or the word Muslim is associated with terrorists.
Politicians in the West gave speeches to please their supporters and further ignite this hatred.
World against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth.
That means honestly confronting the crisis of Islamic extremism and the Islamists and Islamic terror of all kinds.
You're not seriously blaming all Muslims for what happened on September the 11th.
No, but I don't need to. Why do we need to justify it?
Would you deport every Muslim currently living as a United States citizen, of which there are 3 to 4 million? Would you literally deport them? You're hesitating?
No, the point is... No, the reason I'm hesitating is...
You actually are seriously contemplating deporting 3 to 4 million...
No, I'm not serious. Yeah, if you go to Syria, of course we should look at those people and see whether they should come back in, and if they come back in, whether maybe they should end up in jail.
Okay.
But
traveling on international flights for Muslims slightly became more difficult. The jokes about Muslims on a plane and Muslim pilots of aircrafts.
Would you get on a plane with a Muslim pilot?
Man, hell no, man. We at least had to have on some khakis and some dickies or something.
Yeah.
They had no turban on this.
No.
I'd assume it got hijacked. I mean...
Oh, that's up. When you go to the airport and you see anybody, I mean anybody, that looks even the slightest like a Muslim, what do you think?
Oh, I think no-fly list immediate.
Islam is the second largest religion in the world. There are about 1.8 billion Muslims around the globe. We simply cannot stereotype entire nations based on the actions of a few. We do not do this to the people following the Christian faith.
60% of Americans, according to the latest Pew surveys, say that they don't know a Muslim. And that's a problem. I think that's where you get some of that discrimination. It's easy to discriminate against an abstract entity. This idea that Islam somehow is an inherently violent tradition, as if Muslims are somehow more violent than other people. I think we live in a tremendously violent society, but oftentimes we don't see our own violence. It's much easier to see it over there when you see bombs exploding in Syria, rather than handgun deaths in America.
You are terrorists. Every one of you are terrorists. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. You can smile at me. You can say whatever you want. But every Muslim is a terrorist.
She was telling me that I was an effing terrorist, to go back and fight for ISIS in Syria, to stop praying to that piece of S upstairs, calling me an effing Ali Baba, saying that I was a dirty Muslim pig, and it just kept...
Hate crime against Muslims has risen by nearly 50% in the United Kingdom this year. Incidents like this one on a London bus in October.
You come to England and you have your manners. Go back to your...
Wally waited for a ride, but he never did. And then this happened.
Most of us, when we go to hospitals, we're probably the weakest point in our life. We're sick, we're tired.
This is and will be one of New Zealand's darkest days.
Brenton Tarrant opened fire at 2 mosques in Christchurch, killing 51 people. The attack lasts 6 minutes. In that time, he murders more than 40 people.
We don't blame other religions, as Islam is a religion of peace. Islam teaches us to live with everyone in peace and harmony and respect other religious faiths. They say that man is a social animal, which means that we simply cannot survive alone. We need to live together. It's just that there are a very few bad people everywhere, and sadly they end up defining who we are to Westerners as a people and culture. Let's look at some of the good things that the Muslims have done. Our Holy Quran is a book of immense knowledge, wisdom and guidance. And the first word of the Holy Quran which was revealed to our Holy Prophet ﷺ was Iqra, meaning read. The rise of Muslims and the Muslim Empire is also called the Golden Period, as many Muslim scholars and scientists made incredible discoveries that have advanced man from the dark ages to what is our modern world. Let me show you some of the great inventions that were first introduced by our Muslims. Astronomy and astrology.
When you go out in the middle of the night and look at the seemingly billions of stars, you start to realize your position and scale in a massive and indifferent universe. But how many of those stars can you name? I can name around 5. Vega, Betelgeuse, Algol, Altair, and Fomalhaut. All of these names are actually Arabic. In fact, around 2/3 of the stars that have names have Arabic.
Let me tell you about some of the Muslim scientists that have made a great difference in the world.
Heard of Ibn al-Haytham, the inventor of the first camera. Ibn al-Haytham, born in Basra, laid the foundations for optical devices like cameras. Fatima al-Firhi, the founder of the first university. Fatima al-Firhi, a merchant's daughter, established in the year 859 the Qarawiyyin Mosque, the first university in the world in Fez. Abbas ibn Firnas, who performed the very first flight. Al-Idrisi, the first world map. He created the Tabula Rogeriana, one of the most advanced medieval world maps. The Banu Musa brothers, the invention of the first automatic and programmable machine. Their book of ingenious devices, published in 850, was large illustrated work on mechanical devices that included automatic devices. They've devised an automatic flute player, which is considered as the first working example of a programmable machine. We found Hulusi Behçet, a dermatologist from Turkey who discovered a previously unknown disease of inflamed blood vessels, now known as the Behçet disease. Farouk al-Baz, an Egyptian geologist who participated in the Apollo program. Muhammad Abdus Salam from Pakistan, who won the 1979 Nobel Prize in Physics. Ahmed Zewail, an Egyptian-American professor who won the Nobel Prize in 1999 for his analysis of chemical reactions. Aziz Sancar is a Turkish molecular biologist who in 2015 was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his studies of DNA repair. Mariam Mirzakhani, who died in 2017, was the first woman being awarded a Fields Medal, the equivalent of a Nobel Prize for mathematics, for her analysis of complex surfaces. Finally, we have Dr. Ugur Şahin and Dr. Özlem Türeci, the couple who founded BioNTech, which gave the world one of the first vaccines against COVID-19.
With all this, I have not even started to talk about the big boys, Al-Zahrawi, the Andalusian surgeon, who gave us surgical equipment, most of which is even used today without much modification. He treated many brain diseases, even in those days. He is often referred to as the father of surgery. Al-Biruni, who was a Persian Muslim mathematician, astronomer, philosopher, and one of the most prominent historians of the medieval era. Ibn Sina, or popularly known in the West as Avicenna, was a philosopher and physician who wrote over 450 works of literature, but his crown jewel was the Canon of Medicine, which was used as a medical textbook across universities around the world till 17th century. Abu Bakr al-Razi, known over the world as Rhazes, was also a Persian physician whose name is almost synonymous with the field of medicine. Known as the physician-philosopher, he is perhaps the greatest healer of the medieval era. And lastly, one of my favorites because I love math, Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, who was a Persian mathematician, astronomer, and geographer. He is known as the father of algebra and algorithms. The term algorithm comes from his Latin name, algorithmi, which later became algorithm. Without his algorithms, we would not have our computers solving our difficult problems. We are at a junction on our planet. Earth is severely threatened by our common enemies, climate change and global warming. Now is not a time to discriminate, but a time to pull together and work for a better and more peaceful future. Muslims make up almost a quarter of the world's population, and nobody has a future unless everybody develops religious tolerance towards each other. Terrorism has no religion or race, and Islam does not support terrorism. True Muslims are also the victims too, along with everyone else. American historian Howard Zinn famously said, and I quote, "How can you have a war on terrorism when war itself is terrorism?"